Hello, welcome everyone. This is Richmond, American University, London. My name is Victoria. I work with our recruitment team. I'm also a proud Richmond alum. Joined today with Bobby Haas, who was also a Richmond alum, and we were at Richmond right around the same time. So very exciting and excited to share some visa information with you and get you as well informed as you can be. So let us dive into it here. Let me get my PowerPoint out. All right. Great. So let's do this. I am Victoria Yepes Taylor, the Assistant Manager of Operations for Admissions. If there was a longer title, I would try to find it. Yeah, we've got our UK student visa process. So applying from the US. So this presentation is geared towards students who are planning to pursue their full degree with Richmond and are applying from the US passport holders. If you have other passports, you can always talk to us about if there's a different path, if there's something else you should do. But on the whole, the majority of our students are based in the US and that we work with are based in the US and US passport holders. So that's kind of the audience this is geared towards. So if you feel like something is, if I find the visa process is very personal. Everyone has their own backgrounds, different passports, all of that. So the idea of this presentation is to kind of cover the top, I don't know, 20 frequently asked questions. And then if you have something more specific, at least we know you've watched this. We don't have to worry about any of this, and we can kind of move forward to whatever's specific to you. So I think that's enough prefacing it. Let's get into it here. All right. I have a little bit more prefacing. So geared towards full-time degree-seeking students, undergrad and graduate, planning to complete their degree with Richmond. Now, we also welcome other students. We welcome 1-semester visiting students, so less than 6 months, 2-semester visiting students, more than 6 months, usually about 2 semesters. If you are a visiting student, whether for 1 to 2 semesters, and you've made your way to this presentation, your main source of contact will be, we have a UK international team that works with our visiting programs. You may have already even been connected with some of them. Kiara works with our USC and our SMU students, Camille with our Tulane, and Maggie with all other visiting students. So if you are for a visiting program, they're the best source of info. If you're coming just for 1 semester, then you don't need this full visa process that I'm going into. If you're joining for a full year, you will, and it does still apply, but I want you to connect with them because they're going to be your main contact. All right, let's get into it. Well, this is the question that inspired a webinar, a world famous webinar here. Where is my CAS letter? Students ask me this all the time. If you don't know what a CAS letter is, we're going to get into it. But this is what I calmly have to tell myself and tell students and parents. One does not simply receive their CAS letter. I've been told that this meme, what is it? Is it a meme? Is a little dated, but it really encapsulates the feeling. One does not simply receive your CAS letter. There is a criteria that needs to be met. We are not keeping your CAS letter from you. You have to meet the criteria first. So let's go into what it is. So first step, if you're planning to join us in London, you've applied, you have your offer. Step 1 is to confirm your enrollment. So this would be completing the offer acceptance form saying, yes, I want to join you at Richmond. This is my plan for the fall, or if you're watching this at a later time, for the spring, or whatever semester you are looking at. So number 1, offer acceptance form. That's how we know that you want to join us. And that's when you move to being at like the contract stage, that we know you're committed to join us. And then for our undergraduate students, we also have a deposit, a £300 tuition deposit, non-refundable, and this secures your spot in our class for that upcoming, start. If you are a graduate student joining us today, there is not the deposit, there's just the offer acceptance form. So that's that first stage, and that's kind of where we are right now. A lot of students, or if you're still applying, then maybe you're not there just yet, but a lot of our applicants or offer holders have their offers, and it's, you may be waiting on some info. Typically, we encourage students, our soft priority deadline would be May 1st to make that decision, just because that if you commit to Richmond around then you've got this full summer to work through this process I'm going to go through with you, and it just gives you time to prepare not only visa wise, but just kind of mentally, spiritually, however you need to prepare for this change that you're, this adventure that you're going on. It is possible to submit the deposit a little later into the summer, but just the sooner the better, as with many things. There are expedited visa applications, but if you are watching this right now and you're at kind of in the situation I mentioned of having an offer and thinking about making that decision, if you make that decision by May, then you don't necessarily need to do an expedited option unless you happen to have some international travel planned over the summer where you're going to need your passport prior to arriving to Richmond. And then please do reach out to us and let us know you've got an international trip planned. When should you apply for your visa? What makes the most sense? Because there is a stage in the visa application where you have to submit your passport. So you wouldn't be able to travel internationally for a period of time, typically about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on when you if you pick an expedited option or just the traditional route, which would be about 2 to 3 weeks. Another thing you can be working on right now, if you're interested, if you're eligible for FAFSA, U.S. Department of Education, college funding, then you go to your FAFSA app, you include our code G10594. Within the coming weeks, our office, along with the department, our Dean of Financial Aid, will be issuing some loan information to students so they can make their decision by, the May 1 period, if that's what you want to do. I know some students may be waiting for loan FAFSA information. We also do have a webinar about that, so I won't harp on it too much here, but we do have a webinar, and you can register for it on the same page as you registered for this one, and we kind of go into it a little bit more detail. So I won't go into it too much because I got to talk about the visa today. Another thing you can be doing is exploring housing. So we've got our accommodation website on our webpage on our website, gives you information about our partners, about alternative options, about room share sites, all that kinds of stuff, so you can pick which way you want to go. So these are all things that, even though students always say, I want to apply for my visa, and that's great, but it's the way the timing of it is kind of set up. It's sort of a, hurry, wait kind of pattern. So right now we're kind of in the wait stage. So while we're there, you are familiarizing yourself with what the process is by attending this webinar, and then also, making sure that you've accepted your offer, looking into funding, looking into housing. These are all things you can be doing now. All right, let's get into it. So, if you're saying, how do I accept my offer? If you applied directly on our website, or if you applied via the Common app, then you just complete our offer acceptance form. You should have received an automated email with the offer acceptance form, but if not, you can always pull it up via that link as well. One thing to note, if you did apply via UCAS, which I know a lot of students, it's not as common for US students, but if you did, then you do have to sign into the UCAS track and reply to your offer there and check on your individual decision deadline and make sure you reply by that date. If you have any questions about how to accept your offer, let us know. All right, you've accepted your offer. What's next? So to recap, you're familiarizing yourself with housing, you're submitting the 300 pound non-refundable tuition deposit for US students undergrad, looking into funding if you want to, sending us official final transcripts if that's one of the conditions of your offer. If you have a conditional offer, it may just, you just check on the letter and see what the conditions are. It may just be that we're waiting for you to graduate high school, complete your current semester. Having a conditional offer is not something to be scared about. It just means that we can't offer an unconditional offer yet because you just haven't, graduated, or whatever the condition could be. They could list a couple different things on the offer letter. And then another thing, we can be working on getting you a transfer credit evaluation if you're transferring in some credits and try to figure out if this is going to impact the length of your study, if you're going to graduate earlier. And that is information that you would need for the visa process. So these are all little items. I know none of these are really too huge, but when you put them together, it's a couple things that you could be working on now so that, you do not need to wait for May to be looking into these things. All right. So then we move on to the stage of CAS preparation. So what does CAS stand for? Confirmation of Acceptance for Studies. You can see why we call it CAS. And so this letter that you receive from Richmond, it is needed to apply for the visa. You can't apply for the visa until you have this letter. How do you get this letter? Well, you need to have a, number one, unconditional offer. So whatever conditions are listed on your offer, we've got to submit those items so you have an unconditional offer. Number two, valid passport. This is another good thing we can be working on right now. If you have a passport that is looking to expire, anywhere from now to, I would say, within like the first 6 months of classes, then I would encourage you to renew that passport now. That's something you can be working on so that you're not realizing this in the middle of summer and thinking, oh my goodness, I need to do these things. You can do them now. CAS request form. We have a simple form to fill out. Now, it is important to note completing the CAS request form does not immediately action the issuance of your CAS letter. The CAS letter is issued when all this criteria is met and when we are at the time of the year when the UK admissions office begins issuing them, usually right around end of April, early May, typically the period. And another item, CAS payment. So in order to receive your CAS letter, a portion of tuition needs to be paid. For the last semester, it was £4,000 for undergrads and £5,000 for graduate students. Before we begin issuing the CAS letters to the incoming class, I will need to just double check with our UK admissions office and financial offices to see if there are going to be any updates made to that or if those amounts are going to stay. But I leave those there just to give you an idea, ballpark of what we're thinking. So if you are planning to self-fund tuition, then it would be a payment of that £4,000 to £5,000 to meet that criteria. Or if you're looking for student loans, then it would be confirmation of those student loans covering a minimum of that amount to meet the CAS payment criteria. Another item to be thinking about would be the maintenance funds. So the UK government wants to know that a student can support themselves while they're in the UK. They've calculated that a student needs about 15,000 US dollars to support themselves for that first year abroad. How do they come up with this calculation? They looked at about £1,334 a month for 9 months, so about the first year, and that equals £12,006, equivalent to about 15,000 US dollars. Now, US passport holders are considered low-risk nationals, so evidence of this funding will not be requested during the visa application, but you have to be prepared for if during the visa application they requested this evidence, this funding, you would have to show it. So it can be shown either through a banking account with this amount, a savings, a checking, or it could be covered through loans. You could show a loan confirmation letter and say, oh, look, my loans are going to cover tuition and this 15,000, so I'm all set. If you have any questions about the maintenance fund, let us know. It's not something that we here at the U.S. Recruitment and Admissions Office, we're not going to request this evidence of you. But I mention it now. I mention it here. I mention it early because if it was requested during the visa application later in the year, it would need to have been in that account for about 4 weeks, about a month. Or if it's covered in a loan, then just need the loan confirmation. So a couple of heavy points here. I know it's a lot of information, but this is why when a student or a parent asks me, when will I receive my CAS letter? It's not like I can say on this specific date you will receive it, because everyone will meet this criteria at a different point and they need to meet all of it. I'll have students that say, I don't graduate till, I don't know, June 15th. That's okay. That's totally fine. That means if you're waiting for your high school graduation, then if that's the middle of summer, then that's when you'll meet the condition, of your offer, if that's listed on your offer letter as a condition. Or, if you need to do your passport, or if you're working on the payment, or whichever one of these, it's when all of the items are met that we can get this letter issued to you. Now, if you think, hey, I think I'm all set, I have all these items, can I get going? Then feel free to reach out to us. I'll put our contact info at the end and we can do a double check for you. And also reach out to the UK admissions office and see when they're going to kick off issuing these letters. But just on the whole, in our experience, it's usually right around April, May into June, if students are graduating later in June, that this happens. So right now we've kind of got the luxury of time to just get familiar with it. You can meet this criteria in whatever order you want. It's just when all of it's met that we move forward. So now I know to qualify for the CAS letter is a little bit of a project. So sometimes students receive their CAS letter and they think, oh, am I done? That felt like quite a bit. Am I, is this it? Am I all set? And, uh, see, the people say, I have my CAS letter. Am I done? And I have to say, but wait, there's more. So once you have your CAS letter from the UK admissions office and it's delivered by email, so be sure that you're keeping an eye not only for the CAS letter, but just communications from Richmond, keeping an eye on your spam, your junk folders, all of that. I hear all the time that our UK email addresses get caught in US spam filters. So make sure, especially if you're getting, you see it happening a lot, make sure you go into your email settings and you can kind of provide them with email addresses that you want them to allow to send to your inbox. I think like sometimes they'll call it like whitelisting or like approving or something like that. And so that's a good way to make sure that you're not missing anything. But anyway, CAS letter will be sent by email. And then you go on to the UK Home Office website and you fill out the application online, the visa application. And of course, you apply before you travel and you need to complete the process before you travel. You need to complete the process before you fly over. I know that sounds pretty logical right now, early in the year, but just in case you're watching this in July or August, you do need to complete the visa application process, have your passport back with the visa vignette in it before you fly over. If you have more than one copy of a US passport, please do not send one off for the application and fly over with the other. You need to arrive with the passport that has the visa vignette in it. And if you think, oh, that's such a strange scenario, Victoria, where'd you come up with that experience? All right, and here's a little screenshot of the UK visa application, how it kicks off. This is the website. You can take a look at it. You can't get very far without your CAS letter because the CAS letter has a unique CAS number that is assigned to you at that stage, and you can't get very far into the application. So a lot of times students will reach out and say, oh, I can't work on my visa application. And my heart drops because no, you can't. And then I know you haven't watched the visa webinar and my heart is broken. No. But anyway, you can check out the website. I encourage you to poke all around the gov.uk student visa site. There is a lot of good information. I find this site a little kind of choppy sometimes with just the information you need. And that's another reason why we are doing this presentation today. All right, let's get into the fees. So in order to apply and receive the UK student visa, there's an application fee and there is the Immigration Health Surcharge, IHS fee. So the application fee is £490. I know we may be new at converting pounds to dollars, so I've got I think this was earlier this year, conversion rates can vary a little bit over time, but on the whole, just to give you a general idea, application fee £490, equivalent to about 596, 600 US dollars. So that's the application fee. The IHS fee is $776 per year of expected study. So I'll say roundabouts to about $1,000 per year. So the visa application is a one-time thing. So when you are applying for your visa, we need to calculate your anticipated date of graduation. And when you apply, you are applying to cover you throughout graduation. So if you are, and I'm going to have some examples coming up here. If you're joining us as a freshman, no college transfer credits, then you're coming for 4 full years of expected study, and then you've got your application costs. If you're coming as a grad student, then it may be closer to a year and a half, depending on the program and the start term. And again, this isn't I can't offer you an exact calculation because it's the 4 years, but then they also add a little wrap-up period of about, I believe it's about 4 to 5 months after your program is over. So you have to be covered for the health coverage that whole time. If you have health coverage in the US, that's great. That comes in handy whenever you return to the US, but you do need to have this coverage to apply for the visa. There are very, very, very few exceptions. If you think you have an exception, I'm happy to look into it for you, but I don't think I've yet to run across an actual exception. Think this is everything for the fee and the application fee and the IHS fee. So this fee comes early at the visa application process. So we're looking at the start of this being in May, in June. So this is a cost that you need to be aware of because it would be prior to the release of any student loans if you were going to take out any student loans or anything like that. So this is a fee that you would need to be able to cover to go through the visa application, to apply for your visa. All right. Let's do some examples to kind of just wrap our head. And you can, they can do a calculation for you at this website, immigrationhealthsurcharge.service.gov.uk/checker. You can put in your information of when your program would start, when it would end, and they can give you an accurate number for you. For the simplicity for today, I've picked two of kind of like the most simple paths just to not make the math. I'm not here to do crazy math, everybody, but I'm here to kind of wrap your mind around it here. So we've got the first example, a incoming freshman, no transfer credits. So they're 4 full years is what they're looking at. So we've got your application fee. We've got your IHS fee covering 4 years. I added that together and I got 3,600 pounds, equivalent to about 4,500 US dollars. So that is health coverage to cover the 4 years, and that is the application cost. So that's one example that maybe several of you joining. If you have about a semester's worth of transfer credits that you bring with you, then that may reduce it. So that's one of the reasons why we need to do a transfer credit evaluation, not only for you, but for the visa process so that it impacts this calculation. If you would finish up a semester early or two, or if you're a transfer student coming in with 2 years or anything like that. Graduate students, here's an example for you. I went with the fall start because grad students who join in the fall join us for a full complete year. Grad students who join in the spring join for, it's about 16 months. It's a smidge longer. So the math for you, application fee 490, IHS fee 7076. I added that together, got 1266. So 1,266 UK pounds, equivalent to about 1,600 US dollars. So these are two examples. I think most students probably fall somewhere, around in here. But if you want, you're free to go to the checker and you can kind of put your specific information in. Every Richmond student is so different, so I can't kind of predict everybody's path, but I just wanted to get these numbers, these figures in your mind. So I don't want anyone to be surprised by the visa costs. This is a part of international study in the UK. It is a one-time thing. You're not renewing it after a year. Even if you have a suspicion that perhaps you don't plan to complete your entire degree, if you are joining as a degree-seeking student, the UK government, the visa application process requires that you get a student visa to cover your anticipated time of study. All right. So You've paid your fee on the website when you get to that stage. And again, I know this whole process is kind of different stages, different stages. So what I'm talking about right now, as I move further into the stages, it might not make sense to you right now. But when you have the recording and when you're at that stage, you can check this out again, or if we're having another presentation, you can check that out again. And things will make more sense as you move through the steps, and things will just become more clear as you're like, oh, okay, this is what she meant by this or that. Or but always happy to have a call or Zoom if you have questions. So when you go onto the visa site, you fill out the application, you pay the fees. The next step is to book and attend your biometrics appointment. Now, it's at this point that we kind of hit a fork in the road of visa applications, because as I mentioned earlier, there's the kind of traditional length of the application journey, or there are expedited premium routes that can go a little faster. But of course, premium and expedited come with additional costs. So I'm not saying that any student who is looking now at the visa process needs to go with an expedited option. But if we were watching this in the end of July, early August, then I would probably encourage checking out some expedited options. I would also update you on how the process has been going for students over the summer, because that's when I have a better idea, because this portion of the visa application can vary a little bit state by state, because it does involve a state agency. So anyway, so the fork in the road, the traditional route would be that when you're filling out the visa application, they'll ask if you want to go to a USCIS, a United States Citizenship and Immigration Center. Yeah. Sometimes they call them Homeland Security centers. You can look up, if you just Google the name of your city and US, like United States, CIS, you can see where the nearest office is to you. Most major cities have one. And these offices do a lot of immigration tasks, not just visa, or not just UK visa, I should say. So they are not UK visa, student visa experts. So that's why I want you to be as prepared as possible when you go to these offices, so that you can be a UK student visa expert. And all we need from them is your biometrics. What are your biometrics? Biometrics are your fingerprint scanned and your photo taken. So these offices, USCIS offices, Homeland Security offices, the UKVI are able to link with them to attain this information from them when they pull it from you. So fingerprint and photo. As I say here, notable difference between the standard and premium route at this point. So if you go to a local USCIS office, you just go, you make an appointment with them. Usually when you're looking online, you can make an appointment within about a week, depending on the volume of students and the city that you're in, just the number of people that are applying for visas, especially UK visas at the time. But anyway, you go to this office. It's usually a pretty quick appointment. And typically what I encourage is, once students complete that appointment, they get a little receipt, a little proof that they were there. You take your visa application, your passport, your application form, everything, and you just mail it off after your biometrics appointment. You have 5 days to send it. If you're going this route, you have 5 days to send it to the New York office. Record screech, did you say mail off my passport? What? Yes. So in order to go this route, you are mailing your passport, and this is what I mean about international travel. You're mailing your passport to the New York office, regardless of where you live in the US. The New York office is the location that processes them. And I'll go through everything that needs to be in that package. You mail it off. They email you when it's been received. They email you when it's on its way back. You pick the fastest, best shipping that you can, so that we're reducing the time that it's in the mail. Track it along the way. And that is route 1. Route 2, the premium route, is there are a number of VFS, V like Victoria, F like Frank, S like Sam, VFS Global Offices. There's about 10 in the US where you don't have to go to the mailing route. They're premium centers. And when you're filling out your visa application, you have to know about these two routes because they're going to ask what you want to do. If you want to go to a premium center, then there you can check out their locations online. They typically favor the coasts for the most part, East Coast, West Coast, but then down the center there is, I believe it's Houston, Chicago are the locations in the center of the US. Of course, New York, LA, there's another one in California. So there's a few scattered throughout the US. If they're near or convenient for you, then that could be another route as well. With a premium center, you are what are you doing? You can sign up for they have a student package that allows you to go to premium center. That one, I believe it's about $100 additional cost. Or you can get a even more premium package. They have like a bronze package that offers about a like 2 to 3 week turnaround. They have a silver package that's about a 5 business day turnaround, and they have a gold package. It's about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround. I am not suggesting at this point that anyone needs to get the gold package for any reason. I think we leave that to international crises. It does essentially, the gold package does essentially double the cost of the visa, so I'm not suggesting that, but sometimes there's a service that people are interested in, and they'll, they're interested in that 48-hour turnaround, so they'll go that route. But if you go to a premium center, then you're doing your biometrics there, you're delivering your passport there, and then they're either mailing it back to you or you can schedule a pickup with them. So there's a fork in the road. So whenever you call, if you're asking, if you're at this stage in the visa process, I always need to know which way did you go, which way would you go. Either route is fine. They both work fine. We always, if we're discussing it and troubleshooting something, we have to know which way you went, just to kind of figure out where you are in the journey and, go from there. All right. So going back to the route, if you're mailing your application. So once your appointment's over, and sometimes they'll call the local USCIS offices ASC application support centers. You have 5 days to mail your application form, current passport, a return US shipping label. Has to be UPS to be returned back. They don't use anybody else. And any supporting documents. Now, this is a little confusing because when you go into the visa, when you're doing your visa application, they'll ask if you want to upload any documents. It's likely you don't have to upload any documents. Frustratingly, they'll usually ask if you want to upload an image of your passport. You can, but this does not make up for having to mail it in. You still have to mail in your passport. Uploading a picture of it does not, they have to put a physical sticker in your passport. So uploading an image of your passport, I kind of wish they didn't give you that opportunity because it makes students think that you don't have to mail it in as well, and you most certainly do. So like I have in bold, starred, and in yellow, you must submit your passport, and upload is not sufficient. When you leave that appointment at the application support center, the local office, they'll give you a sheet of paper. And sometimes they forget. So that's why I tell you, they'll give you a sheet of paper with instructions for UK visas. So if they don't hand you a paper, say, hey, aren't you supposed to hand me a paper? Some offices, some cities, some locations, they may not see a lot of students coming in for UK visa applications. We're trying to change that, but they might not be as familiar with it. So sometimes we have to educate them a little bit. And so they're going to give you the address. I kind of blanked it out here because sometimes they'll change the address slightly, and I want this presentation to be as accurate as possible. So, but it'll say VFS Services, UKVI Scanning Hub, and then it'll be New York. So, and that's where you'll ship it off. So all applications must include your passport. These 2 sentences here I pulled from the UK website. Must include your passport and at least 1 blank visa page on both sides so that they can put the sticker in there. If your application is submitted without a passport, the application will be refused. Now, I happen to know that it is possible to reunite an application and a passport if for some reason you have forgotten to send it, even though I've bolded and highlighted and starred it and begged. But basically all you have to do is mail your passport in as soon as possible, as soon as you realize that you didn't. But Well, it's just better to avoid this whole thing and just have it all in the package together and send it off and not have to try to reunite your passport. Because if you send in an application that's missing your passport, the UKVI will not say that your application is missing your passport. They will just say that there are some delays with your application, and they will just keep saying that because I think they don't want to say that they don't have your passport because they're afraid that they, misplaced it or something. So in any case, avoid that whole thing. Make sure that your passport is submitted as part of it. I think I highlighted enough, I hope. Okay. So let's move forward a little bit. All right, this is the image that we're working for, that we're training for right now. This image on the right is an example of a Visa vignette sticker. So U.S. nationals receive a 90-day Visa vignette, aka sticker, in their passport. You'll use this to travel to the UK. When you arrive in the UK and you go to customs, you want to make sure that you go to a agent, that you speak to a customs person as you are going through customs. Because if you just go through and I know it's really tempting, they have this huge bank of just like unmanned kind of just you can walk through the style yourself. You scan your own passport and picture like a digital sort of version. But if you go through that way, then you're just sort of showing your normal passport, and the UK government just thinks you're coming in as a tourist. So you have to go through with a gate agent so that they can see your vignette sticker, and once they see that, it actions the issuance of your BRP card. What's that? Biometrics Resident Permit. And this is basically like an ID card that will replace your Visa vignette sticker, because that only lasts for 90 days. And this is good for the entirety of your studies. And it's just this way you don't have to walk around with your passport. You've got this card. And you pick it up at a local post office. So when you're filling out your visa application, they're going to ask, do you want to, is there like a special location, or are you going to pick it up at a post office? You're going to pick it up at a local post office. Now it's up to you which one. You just put in the area code of either, you can put in the Chiswick Park area code, you can put in wherever your housing is, if that's more convenient for you. Just they have it so that it's not one central location, but it's offices all over, post office offices all over, so that all of London's students aren't going to the same one office to pick up their BRP card. So you go there about 5 days after arrival. It should be at your post office, whichever one you selected, and that'll show you the full length of your visa. Now, if you're sitting here and you have a EU, a European passport, then definitely let us know and make sure we have a copy of it as well. Then I would encourage you to apply for your visa using the EU passport. There's an app for students who apply with their EU passport, and it's a little bit more of a digital process. You don't have to do in-person biometrics. It's a little bit more streamlined. It's an online process. So if you're able to do that, encourage you to do that. And then you're not getting the vignette sticker. You get it's through the app that you get what you need to show when you go through customs. Whew. Oh my goodness. All right, we did it. All right, 40 minutes, not bad, not bad. All right, so let me take a look here. Let me see. I know I've been seeing some things going on. Let's see what this one is. What's the soonest possible we might get access to receive the CAS letter? Since I'm waiting to get approved loans, I was wondering if there's an update towards this, because I'm planning to travel during the summer with my family in May. Wondering if I can begin the process earlier than April. All right, couple little things to dive into. This is great. Lots of things. And this is just, I know, some students may say, this isn't my situation at all, or you may say, hey, this is exactly what I'm thinking too. Every Richmond student is different, so sometimes we have to one-on-one and kind of troubleshoot here. So again, going through that CAS criteria, let me put that, I'll answer this live. Going through that CAS criteria, let me pull that up again. And I would encourage you to look and kind of see where you are at. Let me see if I can get that list up for you. There we go. So I would encourage you to look at this criteria and see where you're at. I know you mentioned one of the items is the loans. So loans, and that process will begin shortly, in the coming weeks. I can certainly request that, if you do have a travel situation that we, if we can kind of prioritize, do it earlier, later, what have you. Or the other option may be if you're traveling during the summer, I would kind of want to ask too, particularly when, early, late in the summer. This may be better if we just have a call. I'll put my email at the end or a Zoom or something. Because it may be possible that maybe if you're doing travel with the family, maybe it's better to apply for the visa after. But if it's too close that way, then maybe before. Uh, but let's yeah, we can go into it in more detail. So definitely I'll put my email up at the end, or if you just want to email Bobby in and loop me in, he can loop me in and we can kind of troubleshoot. But this is great. This is the kind of stuff that we want to be talking about now instead of in May and June and July, anything like that. So definitely this is the time to figure out. And let me see, I just wanted to see if there's anything else in there. Okay, but yeah, I think we kind of covered generally. But yeah, if anyone has any, thank you for this question. If anyone has any kind of travel, it's a lot of times I work with students and I say, okay, like if you're, sometimes it's like a graduation trip. So, I say, all right, it's better to wrap that up and it's okay. You don't have to be scared of applying for the visa, for example, in July is fine as long as you know what the process is. It usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks and you can certainly make it through in time. But I just don't want to be sitting in July and kind of introducing these concepts. So now that we're talking about them now, I think that's, this is the way to kind of resolve it. So yeah, let's connect and just talk a little bit more about the travel plans and how much time and just see what makes sense. Okay. So see a little bit going on in the chat here. Let's see. Yes, awesome. We've got an alumna from the class of 1990. That's very exciting. Yeah, I think we've connected a little bit. That's awesome. That's very cool. All right, let's see what other questions I have here. I have a US passport and I'm a US citizen. Can I stamp my visa for UK outside of US? All right, let me see what Bobby said. You need to send in your physical passport to be processed. Oh, like, can you apply for your visa outside of the US? Okay, let's see what Bobby said here. So you have to send your physical passport. It will be mailed to you. So you won't be able to travel outside the US at that point because you won't have your passport. All right, let me see. Let's keep going. And then I see a new question at the bottom. How do you know if you need to look into the transfer credit thing? Okay, I got Bobby helping me out there. But yeah, if you have any, AP college credits, dual enrollment, what's the other thing? Oh, IB. And for those, if you're an IB student, then for transfer credit, we may be waiting on your IB scores because scores of what is it, 4 or above, can be considered for transfer credit. And IB scores come out in July, I believe, right at the start of July. So we may need to wait for that. If you're an IB student, you are waiting for those, feel free to get in contact with us and let's have a strategy of, again, it's okay to apply for your UK student visa in July. I just want you to know exactly what you're going to need to do so that you can just work through all the steps. A copy of the slideshow or get access to it. Yeah, we'll send a recording around of this. If you want the actual slides, then I'll put my email up at the end. You can send me an email, but I feel like the slides don't, I kind of leave them a little uh plain, so I think they do better when you kind of have the audio with it, I think, or maybe you disagree and you rather just look at the PowerPoint. But yeah, thanks, Bobby. Will the $300 deposit, is 300 pounds equivalent to about 450 US dollars, be credited to any fees? Yes, the deposit does go towards tuition costs. Yes. What is the acceptance rate of this school? I find that UK schools are pretty straightforward. Typically with Richmond, typically GPA is 2.5 or above. If you're going on the 4.0 scale, typically they will receive an offer. We have merit scholarships for higher GPAs, 3.0 and 3.5. But it's pretty, if you meet the criteria, typically you do receive an offer. It's just more about if Richmond makes sense for you. Thank you, Bobby. Deposit goes towards tuition. Yeah, happy to have a call to talk about your travel plans for sure. Okay. Let me get that final slide up just so you can see our contact info. Is there a better way to do this than flying through it? I don't know. Anyway, all right, let's get some emails up here. So if you want to email us, the U.S. Admissions Office, myself, Bobby, and our director, Brian, you can email usadmissions@richmond.ac.uk or US_admissions. Either one will get to us. If you do need the UK Admissions Office, a lot of times they'll direct you to us for basic recruitment admissions questions, but if you are if they have reached out to you asking for a document or, clarification on something, then admissions at Richmond, that's them. I can be reached by either Yepis V or Taylor V at richmond.ac.uk. And then we have my colleague, Charles Bobby Haas, and there's his email there, Haas C. And so typically our email addresses end with that at richmond.ac.uk. So definitely encourage you to check out your spam, your junk folders. Just make sure nothing's getting caught in there. If you have any questions about your offer, how to accept it, deposit, or the visa process, then let's talk. This is the time to do it. I thank you for spending your time with us today and just doing the work to inform yourself. As you can see, the visa process, it is a little bit of a project, but usually there's only certain stages. You may be in a stage right now and you may not be able to move forward, but at least you know what's coming. And we're trying to reduce surprises, also trying to reduce errors. A lot of the points that I highlight in this webinar are the result of just past experience of working with students, working with UK visa immigration. I don't know if you've ever worked with UK customer service, but a lot of times they are not the most responsive. So that's why we are here to help facilitate and help try to avoid just the most common issues, so that we can move forward. Let's see, other questions. How many students attend Richmond now? We've got, I would say, a little over 1,000 students. We welcome visiting students, degree seekers, graduate students. So we're a small school, but in the largeness that is London. I think I'll wrap up the recording right now, and then if we'll hang out for another minute or two if you have questions, or else you're free to go. So if you are watching the recording, thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. And we'll help you as best as we can. That's why we're here.